So now that we know what ray tracing is, and we're aware that when we're photorealistically rendering, we're essentially figuring out the light so that each pixel knows its color, let's go ahead and get started. So if you don't already have Sketchup open, go ahead and launch Sketchup. And I'll go ahead and start a new file. And in this new file, we're going to create a really basic model. And we're just going to worry about SketchUp and some of the concepts in SketchUp that we have to get right before we start doing any sort of rendering. So we'll create a really simple vignette of a room. So we'll take the rectangle tool, and I'm going to call out the keyboard shortcuts as we go along. So R for rectangle. We'll start at the origin, click, and go ahead and move your cursor. And if you go to your keyboard and just type 20 and the foot mark for feet, comma 20 and the foot mark for feet, and hit enter for 20 feet by 20 feet. Then hold down the center mouse wheel to orbit and roll it forward to zoom in. And then press P for push pull, and push pull this down. We'll just push pull it down 6 inches. So we'll type 6 and hit enter. Now we'll cover some things that are more fundamental SketchUp here, just to make sure we have a little warm up on some of those concepts, or a refresher. Whenever we create what's now, in this case, a floor, we want to go ahead and group it so it doesn't get stuck to anything else. So spacebar is your shortcut for the select tool, and triple click, 1, 2, 3, will select everything here. Then right click and make it a group. Now, one more best practice that's also a refresher is whenever we have a group and it's something like, say, a floor in this case, we want to go ahead and put that on its own layer. So we'll go to Window and we'll open the Layers window. If you're on a PC, you already have a series of windows open on the side, a tray. So if it's not in your default tray, you don't see layers over on the right-hand side, under Window, you'll have something near the top that says Default Tray, and you need to go through that, and then there's a side menu for activating layers if it's not already. So I'll open my Layers window over here. And the plus in your Layers tab, go ahead and click that, and let's call it Floor. So you type the word floor, and don't forget to press the Enter key or the Return key on your keyboard. Now that gives you a floor layer, but you still need to assign the group to that layer. So to do that, right click, or if you're not using a mouse, hold down the Control key while you click, and then select Entity Info. The Entity Info window will pop open, and in there you see it says Layer 0. You can click the arrow to drop down and select Floor. Once you have that done, you can close Entity Info, and you have your basic floor here. Now we're just getting warmed up, some basic concepts, some refreshers. So let's just finish out 2 walls here. So we don't need all the walls to this theoretical room here. So we'll take the rectangle tool, R for rectangle, start at this top corner endpoint, click, and move your cursor along to the other edge. And we remember this is 20 feet long. So you notice in your bottom right-hand corner, your value control box, or your measurements box, that you have your dimensions split by that comma. So I see 20 feet as my second dimension, so that tells me my first one is for the width. I'll just make these 6 inches thick. So 6, comma, 20 feet, enter. And notice I didn't type the inch symbol, because if you don't type inches, or feet, I should say, if you don't type the foot mark for feet, it just assumes inches. So you've got that rectangle, press P for push pull, click, push pull up. Let's make this 10 feet, so we'll type 10 in the foot mark, hit enter, and that finishes that push pull at 10 feet. And then I'll repeat the steps a little bit more quickly this time. So spacebar for the select tool, triple click to select the whole thing, right click, pick the option for make group. Then in your layers window, remember if this isn't open, it's under window That's where you can find layers, or through the default tray. Click the plus button in the Layers tab. Let's type wall 1, since we're going to create more than one wall. Hit enter. And then the last step is to right-click on this group, go to Entity Info, select Wall 1, close it down, and now you have that wall on its layer. And then the last step here is to press R for the rectangle tool and do it one more time. Click from this endpoint, move your mouse across. Now in this case, remember that rather than this being 20 feet, you notice I have 19 feet 6 inches because it's 6 less inches for that other wall. So I'll type 19 feet 6, comma 6. Enter. And then through the steps again. P for push-pull. Click to push-pull up. Type 10 feet. Enter. Spacebar for the select tool. Triple click. Right-click. Select the option for Make Group. And then in the Layers window, click the plus. Type Wall 2 and hit Enter. And last thing, assign this group to that layer by right-clicking on the group, going to Entity Info, and in your layer drop-down here, select Wall 2, and then go ahead and close the Entity Info window. So now you have a very basic room vignette that we'll use for this example, and you've built it in a nice, sensible way with groups that are on their own layers. And we'll get a lot into how and why this grouping and layering strategy is very important in SketchUp in general, and also will be very helpful for rendering.